Thank you for attending tonight's workshop, Closing the Scout Sale, Being Successful in Recruiting New Families to Your Scouting Program. My name is Rob DeFazio. I am a membership and unit service executive with the Mayflower Council. Your host tonight, we have a lot of things to go over. And as I said before, we do want to remind you to keep your microphone muted, please, and save all of your questions to the end. So to get started, what we'd like to talk about is give you a little bit of food for thought. And this was based on a survey that was taken around 2019. And it's a desire to participate. 46% of Americans, and this was as of like late 2018, early 2019, 46% of Americans who did not participate in outdoor recreation had a desire to start participating, while 54% were content not participating at all. And what happened throughout the pandemic is really important because it changed that number and caused it to go up because we were all shut down. It confined us. People wanted to get into the outdoors. So we began to see late 2021 and into 2022, things like camper sales, RV sales went up, and Field and Stream magazine subscriptions went up, and even stores like Bass Pro Shops began to have increased revenue because people were looking to get into the outdoors. And that's what makes the appeal of our program great. It's important to bear that in mind as we get started tonight. The other thing we do obviously want to remind you as we dive in tonight is about the council's $250,000 marketing campaign that we have put into effect to educate our public and potential members about scouting, especially Cub Scouts, in advance of Joint Scouting Day. This campaign provides for leads to come in that will be forwarded to our units, and it's critical that you're prepared so that we can educate and generate leads. And the council's done its part with the marketing campaign, but this particular workshop tonight is going to help you close the sale, especially on Joint Scouting Day. And I want to give you another couple of statistics to look at because these are important and these just came in. The lower number in each of these blue circles is from the top number is July 19th through August 17th versus June 19th to July 18th. So the top numbers are more recent. And when you look at the number of impressions, we've had over combined 4 million impressions from our social media marketing campaign. Our reach has gone up about 100,000 from early in the campaign to now. The video views have gone down a little bit. The clicks have gone up. The return on click investment has also gone up, and the cost per click also, in the end, justifies the means. We're beginning to see more through Invitation Manager, right? We're beginning to see more leads come in. And a lot of those leads that are coming in right now are saying that they saw an ad as a result of the campaign. So the marketing campaign is doing its part, and it's time to do our part tonight. So when we talk about closing the sale, what I want to do is talk about what we're not going to be doing. Take a look.
How do you do, ma'am? My name is Del Griffith. I'm with the American Light and Fixture Company, Jewelry Division, and I've got the deal of a lifetime for you. Do you have a minute? This is your Diane Sawyer autographed earring. You ever watch 60 Minutes? Thanks. This is Czechoslovakian ivory. That's $5. Great. This is your Walter Cronkite moon ring. Thank you. They are filled with helium, so they're very light. Thank you. This is an autographed Darryl Strawberry earring. All right. These are very special earrings, by the way. These were originally handcrafted for the grand.
Okay, so that's just one example of how we're not going to approach this, right? I want to share one more for you.
See the local sites? Ask our concierge, Doreen.
But be warned, she's having a hard month every month. Looking for adventure? See the cave? Every town has a cave. I'd love to go, but I can't afford to, and I apologize for crying when you stopped by earlier. I didn't sleep well last night. My dogs have taken over the bed. And the feral cat I rescued, it bit me pretty hard. So please, for me, see the cave.
Okay. As much as a lot of that is tongue in cheek, the one thing that we want to emphasize tonight is when it comes to Joint Scouting Day and when we're talking about recruitment altogether, the approach should be we're having a conversation with a parent and or prospective scout that will help guide that parent and or prospective scout to an outcome. So what are the outcomes? There are three potential outcomes from these conversations. The first one, and the one that we're really rooting for, and the one that we're trying to train everybody for, as well as provide support for when it comes to the marketing campaign, is the join. So we are optimistic that people are going to join as a result of the conversation you have with them as part of Joint Scouting Day. The second outcome could be a request for more information or a think it over. They may want to attend a den or a PAC meeting just to see what things are about. They may need to discuss it with another partner, family member, or spouse, or they may have another reason as to why they might not be ready to do the registration of a new scout right there and then. And it's okay. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. And the third outcome, as much as we don't want to discuss it, we do need to recognize that there may be a slim few that aren't going to join. And we're going to talk about how to deal with all of that in just a little bit. But it's important that you know what the outcomes are, because one of the things that we try to emphasize is no is an outcome. It's not the outcome we want, but sometimes there's a reason for that. And we'll get to that in a few minutes. Food for thought when it comes to Joint Scouting Day. As a result of the marketing campaign that we've put into place, people who attend your Joint Scouting Day event or activity are at minimum going to be interested in learning more about Cub Scouting for their child. But based on the name that we've given it, Joint Scouting Day, odds are better that people who are going to come to Joint Scouting Day are probably going to want to sign up. Again, no guarantees, but we've put the work in to attract some interest. And now we have to take it one step further. So next, we want to talk about the 80-20 rule of listening and why it's important. If you were younger, you probably heard the phrase, you got two ears and one mouth for a reason. And that's true with the 80-20 rule of listening. It's really important to recognize, okay? As the person who's doing the presentation, yes, it's our job to present all of the information about our program as possible. But listening is equally as important because it's going to help possibly guide certain elements of your conversation with a parent and or prospective scout and uncover some information that's going to help you with persuading them to join and maybe steering that conversation into a outcome of joining, okay? And it's really important to listen to what they're talking about. And we're going to talk about in a few minutes when you do that initial hello and start your conversation. One of the things to possibly ask is about how they are interested in scouting. What do you know about scouting that is of interest to you? And knowing what that answer might be is going to help steer your conversation beyond just what's on the 5-table approach, which is what we would like for you to have. Another thing to remember here is who's making the decision. Okay. Is it the adult or is it the child? Now, a lot of you, I'm sure, if I asked the question, would probably say it's the adult because the adult is the one with the checkbook, right? The adult's the one that can sign off on the whole thing and make the registration a reality. And I would agree with that all day long. But I come from a kids entertainment background, so I want to share this story real quick and prove why this is important. One of my jobs was I would go to daycare centers. I was a bubbleologist, and I would do bubble parties for kids. And we would do a show at daycare centers, and it was ironic how we would do a show on Monday and we would get a call from a frantic parent on Wednesday. And that frantic parent would be saying, I don't care what it costs. My kid has not stopped talking about you, and I have to have you for the bubble party for his birthday on Saturday. So, as much as the adult is the one that's going to initiate the registration and make sure the registration happens, the child has a lot to do with this too. And that's why it's equally as important to pay attention to what the child's saying, because the child is going to be the one that's also going to possibly tell mom if it's not what they expected. And as parents, we all want our kids to be happy. So it is equally important to realize that it's both the parents and the child that are involved in this process. So listening to them is equally as important. Now, speaking of dialogue and listening and everything else, I want to bring a statistic in, and this comes from the National 2018 New Cub Scout Joining Research and Strategy Survey. This is really important. Who are you talking to? Meaning, who are the parents and the child talking to? I know some units are going to have parent volunteers, and you may have den leaders and assistant cub masters helping out. But this statistic on the screen is really important because it emphasizes what's going to eventually lead to retention. Over 50% of the people surveyed in this survey had some form of conversation with leadership before joining. And based on those conversations, they had better experiences than those who had a brief conversation. Those who had no interaction with leadership or a simple hello had the worst joining experiences. And the worst joining experiences, if you think about things that we experience, if you think about we got off on a bad note and it never got any better, that's something that could possibly cloud whether or not we have retention with a particular scout. So it's highly encouraged that you have a good leadership core there, having conversations with the parents, not just one-on-one, but a face-to-face conversation as part of your joint scouting day process. So now that we've talked a lot about listening and who's going to be talking and kind of giving you an idea of what we're not going to do, let's roll into something really important, and that is the Scout Law, especially when it comes to these conversations we're going to have on Joint Scouting Day. Now, this isn't the complete Scout Law. I recognize that. But these are the things that are topics that we're going to talk about, and that is these elements of the Scout Law, namely trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, and cheerful. And we're not going to talk about these in any particular order. So sit tight, and we're going to explain a few things here. The first thing I want to talk about is the Scout is friendly. And we talked about that introductory hello being important. Again, you're going to get a good idea based on that hello and the next question, what brings you here today? If mom says, we're here to join scouting, Billy can't wait, you know at the end, for the most part, it's probably a 95% shot that you're going to be doing an application online, okay? Find out why they are there and why they are interested in Cub Scouting. Make sure you ask the adult and the child. Make the child feel included before you pair them up for whatever activity you have going on. This allows you to focus your conversation and appeal to their interests while talking about the program. We also recommend that you pair the child up with the activity, because the activity in most cases is going to involve other youth from your pack. So it's going to allow them to make friends, right? It allows them to engage. It also allows them the possibility, if you've set this up right, to meet someone from the den that they may end up in. So that first den meeting might not be so awkward. And the last thing it does is it allows the adults to have adult conversation so that if there's something on the parent's mind, you can have an adult conversation and be able to discuss it freely with them. Speaking of parents, a scout is courteous. And I want to explain this a little bit and give you a little bit of a story. For those of you who I've had the pleasure of meeting with, I am in a relationship where I came into the relationship, and my fiance, Kim, had a daughter. And when I came in, she was 4 or 5 years old. And I took some responsibilities of driving her to school and doing things with her and having our special relationship as mom's boyfriend. But one of the things that would always get her upset is when people automatically assumed that I was dad. Now, am I playing that kind of a role? Yes, to a degree, but it would get her upset and it would actually turn her off to things we were doing because of the fact that she has a dad and dad's very much in the picture, which is why I'm bringing this point up. Never assume that the adult accompanying that child is always a parent. It could be a grandparent. It could be mom's boyfriend. It could be a significant other that can help with registration. It could be a grandparent. When in doubt, and this is something you can carry into when you're doing your meetings with your PACs, refer to them as the favorite grown-up. Okay, that's a great generic way to be able to refer to them. And when you greet the child, ask them to introduce their grown-up to you. It would go something like, "Hi, Billy. It's great to meet you. My name is Mr. Rob. Who's this person?" "Oh, that's my mom." Or "That's my dad." Or "That's my mom's boyfriend, and he was a scout and he said to come." You're going to get information from that encounter. Really important stuff. So bear that in mind, okay? Let's move on. A scout is trustworthy. And we've talked about transparency in scouting and how important that is. Remember the end goal. The end goal is to obviously steer the conversation and keep it in a positive tone to make our program look attractive enough in the conversation that we're going to get a join out of it. Tailor your approach to give just the facts and then provide additional information to their answers, to their questions rather, when they are asked. Give them the factual information and let the parent guide the conversation with any questions they might have. Another big thing that's really important is be genuine and talk to them. Don't talk at them, especially if the child's around. You want to make them feel like people and not statistics, I guess is the best way to put that. So that covers trustworthiness for a minute. And what I'd like to do is continue to talk about the conversations. And this is a result, the information I'm about to give you is from our marketing campaign that we launched earlier this year. On the screen right now are the top 5 things that mom wants for her kids that we found in the survey. She wants safety, and she wants to know that the program that their child's going into is safe, emotional health, and having positive experiences with other kids, preparation for real life, skills and values, and they want to experience in-person activities with their child. I wonder where they can get all that. They can get that with Cub Scouting. But to know that that's what mom wants is you're going to touch on those key elements that are going to make her, if it's a mom, feel more comfortable about the decision to enroll their child in Cub Scouting. Okay. And these are the top 5 questions that moms have about scouting. The first one is the obvious one. And it's the most important one, friends, and that is, will my child be safe? And address that. One of the big things that we have that we can be proud of with the Boy Scouts of America is our youth protection program is an industry leading thing. In fact, there are many organizations that emulate their youth protection programs after ours. So we have the safest standards that are out there right now. And by emphasizing that, you're going to be giving that safety feeling to the parent. Some people, because of the pandemic, scouting and a lot of other activities lost a little bit of traction in more ways than one, not just in membership numbers. But you want to talk about relevancy and the fact that scouting is for families. In fact, we talk about Cub Scouting being for the whole family, especially now that we have girls being involved in PACs and family dens available where the whole family can get involved in the entire scouting experience. As we all know as leaders and through our programs, We know that we're going to be able to get the kids exposure to new things and opportunities through the programs and the outings and the activities. Can girls join? We just talked about that briefly. And if your pack is a family pack, emphasize that, because one of the things by building a strong Cub Scout program with girls and boys is we're going to eventually have those girls graduate and cross over into Scouts BSA, which gives us an opportunity to expand the Scouts BSA girls program when they get to that age. And then cost. And we've talked about cost before. And if you need some assistance with that, there is a unit success workshop on the Mayflower page that goes into how the costs are broken down and how the fees are paid, especially where we're doing online applications right now. So feel free to take a look at that particular workshop if you need the assistance with that. So let's talk about kids for a minute and what Cub Scout activities appeal to the kids. The number one answer is camping. The number two answer is Pinewood Derby. You've also got hiking, STEM activities, fishing, rockets, canoeing, and biking. Now, if the child comes to you and says, I want to go camping, feel free to address that. But also feel free to let them know that you do a lot of other fun things like Pinewood Derby, and maybe you don't do rockets, but maybe you do fishing. Feel free to let them know how much fun they're going to have beyond the actual program that they're interested in. And one of the last things when you're talking about shaping the conversation is the top reasons why families join Cub Scouting. And they're listed right here, and I just want to go through them briefly with you before we move on. Character development. That sounds familiar, right, everybody? Learning about nature and the outdoors, self-confidence, participation in a values-based organization, fun. Cub Scouting is fun, everybody, and we want to make sure that we talk about that. Outdoor participation, trying activities, making new friends, the social skills. How many times have we heard conversations as parents about, I can't get the kid off the phone, or I can't get him to go outside? This is all stuff that we bring to the table with Cub Scouting. And one of the big things is what I call the legacy, right? The legacy is that there was a family member that is or was a scout. It might be a family member that they look up to, which is why they're there. They want to be just like their big brother. Okay. So we've talked about things to talk about and topics of discussion. Now, this is in conjunction with the 5-table approach and the 5-table boards that you've been provided. The information about that, we'll talk about the training that comes with that in just a little bit. And for time's sake, I'm going to put the QR code up and encourage you to take this training and get comfortable with that material. Feel free to look over those YouTube videos. But what I want to talk about real quick is understanding needs. And understanding needs are important because sometimes people are coming to scouting of a specific need beyond just the fun element. And when you're shaping your conversation, you might want to take a look at this video real quick because we're going to talk a little bit about it. So let me share them. If the conversation's going a certain way and your pack goes in a different direction, it's okay to emphasize that. But my caution here is emphasize what your pack specializes in, but don't get into the stargazer lounge mode, I guess you could say. You want to keep the conversation going positive and upbeat, and you want to make this all a very pleasant conversation because we're trying to attract people into the program. So my advice is when you see your conversation starting to go down, that you're talking almost as if you're pushing the stargazer lounge, so to speak, just to keep it in the back of your mind and be aware, and feel free to steer the conversation. Remember, conversations involve two people. So when you're having that conversation with a parent or a child, feel free to remember that you can control where the conversation is going to go next simply with dialogue. Okay. So being prepared, really important. Up on the screen here, and we talked about this in our August roundtable just a few weeks ago. is a sample of the top 10 things you need to have to be ready for Joint Scouting Day. Obviously, your 5 boards for your 5 table approach, laptops and tablets. Make sure you check your Wi-Fi and have those available. That way there, you can help people with applications. Packed schedule. And a packed schedule, I think, is really important because when you're talking about camping trips, having your packed schedule and showing that to the parent and the child going, see, we're going to Camp Squano in October for a camp out with the Cubs. And that's one of the many things we're going to be doing. Make sure you have that schedule because the schedule helps sell the program. It shows how much fun the kids are going to be having. And it shows the new things they're going to be exposed to, right? Adult applications. As we've said before, when we've been talking about Joint Scouting Day, every child presents at least an opportunity for us to possibly have a new adult join as well and get into a volunteer position where they might be a den leader. They might help out with refreshments. But creating an environment where volunteers are encouraged and that every family helps run the pack, having those adult applications and having them properly registered with the council is a must. And obviously, if they're filling them out there, there's pens, games and activities. Now, we've talked about, and a lot of people have talked about, oh, we're going to do regatta relay or we're going to do Pinewood Derby. And the council has some stuff that we're bringing in like Lego car, Pinewood Derby, tracks and Lego parts that you can do. We've also just got coloring pages if you need coloring pages. If you need ideas, feel free to reach out to me at the end. I'll put up my contact information. Coming from a kids entertainment background, I get some pretty cool stuff that we could bring into this as well. Snacks and water. In some cases, you're doing a Joint Scouting Day for a couple of hours, maybe 2 or 3. Maybe you're doing a day-long carnival at your local town park. Having snacks and water for you and your volunteers is a great way to keep them healthy, number one, but more importantly, also keep them in the game, so to speak. So especially if we get a hot weekend, keeping them hydrated is going to be key in keeping them healthy. Wipes and sanitizer, having those available because the fact that COVID is still in our minds, having that there. Handouts. We talked about things like the calendar. If there's other supporting materials of things that your pack does that you feel are relevant to Joint Scouting Day and recruitment, feel free to have those as handouts as well. And don't forget your volunteers. I hope you're not all running your Joint Scouting Day by yourself. Now, on this list, number 1, number 4, number 5, and number 8, and number 9 to a degree, because we threw in some handouts, are in the materials that you're getting from the council. So when you talk to your professional team member for your district and arrange to pick up those materials, you're going to have wipes and sanitizer. You're going to have some handouts. We have some brochures about poison ivy and telling the difference, and tick cards. We have pens and adult applications in there. We actually do have a brand new copy, a bunch of them actually. We give you about 50 of them, of the parents guide that was just published. So you're going to have plenty of things to hand out. We do also have a limited supply of the Lego cars and the Lego tracks and things like Giant Jenga and Giant Connect 4. And you can reach out to our professional team to find out how to get those materials. Now, for time's sake tonight, because there is a lot of material to cover, and I want to allow for time for questions, this is the QR code to our YouTube channel. And on our YouTube channel, following this QR code is a 5-part YouTube video, 5 YouTube videos that go through what's on each of the 5 table approach boards and why they're there and how to present them to parents. So a lot of people with the 5 table approach, they have 5 tables and they have a volunteer at each table presenting what's on that board. And there are some that go about it a different way. And they basically walk the family through the 5 different tables. In my opinion, there are no right or wrongs here as long as you're getting them through and presenting that information, because that information helps with the scout sale. But to learn how to present it properly, the videos do a great job, which is why I'm pushing them here. And the information is on, I'm sorry, this screen right here. There you go. Feel free to take a picture of that QR code or write down that small URL, and you'll be able to get access to that information. I'll leave it up there for a second before we move on. So the last table in the 5-table approach, everybody, is the checkout and the sign up. If you are having a conversation with a family and you get to the 5th table, this is a good opportunity to be able to wrap up the conversation. If they're going to join, you're going to get an indication right away. And again, if you started that conversation back at the first table and you asked, what brings you here today? And the parent has made it clear that you're joining, it's pretty easy. Scan the QR code, they can go on their phone, they can do the registration and get that squared away. If you need a way to transition that over, however, again, based on where the conversation began, you're going to have a good idea on what that outcome. But ask them what their next step is. What would you like to do now? And then let them have an opportunity to answer. If they seem uncertain about what you're asking, feel free to spell it out. Well, how do you feel about everything? What would you like to do now? And if they give you that look, what do you mean? Well, what do you think about the Cub Scouting program for Billy? Well, I think it's a pretty good fit. Great. Well, would you like to join? You may have to walk people through that, but generally, if you ask them, what would you like to do now? They're going to give you a definitive answer about what the next step's going to be. And if joining is it, you're going to get them. If they need to think it over, talk with the spouse, they want to go to a dinner or a PAC meeting, at the very least, and actually the information on the screen is a little bit inaccurate. At the beginning, we're going to have QR codes that are called check-in QR codes that are going to lead the prospective parent to go to the request more information on beascout.org for your unit, and they're going to enter in their information there. So that particular information is all going to be captured and available to you on Invitation Manager on my.scouting.org. It's going to allow you to keep track of them and help facilitate the online application process. So at that last table, you're going to be able to determine what outcome you're going to get. And based on that, it's going to help you determine how to follow up. So if they join, I hope your unit has talked about doing a parent orientation night in the near future after Joint Scouting Day, where all of these new families get to come and meet other grown-ups of the pack. And this is your opportunity to detail the expectations of what your unit's going to be doing in the fall. It also allows you to recruit new adult volunteers for the pack. And one of the things that we have discovered as a professional team is that there's a big need for that right now. And that's why next month we're actually going to be doing a workshop all about volunteer recruitment. The other thing that we do recommend is an introductory call or email from the den leader to the parent and possibly also to the child. Maybe it's a Zoom where you schedule a time and the three of you go on and have a conversation with the den leader all about what's going to be happening so that they feel a little more comfortable. And another thing that is a good follow-up technique is to ask the parent if they know of one of the new Scouts buddies who may be interested in joining. Don't just end with recruiting one. Find out if he's got a friend that might want to join, that might be interested. That's always a good way to end a conversation and possibly recruit a new scout so that the first scout is a little more comfortable when they show up at the den meeting with their friend. So if they don't join at your Joint Scouting Day event, you've got some options here. And again, by capturing the information an invitation manager, when they check in, that's going to be huge because you're going to be able to follow up right through invitation manager on my.scouting.org. Invite them to the next pack meeting or open house or parent orientation. Make sure you have the family, somebody there if they're coming to be a visitor to help liaison the family. Maybe your new member coordinator, maybe you designate a volunteer. Maybe you find out in the course of conversation that there's somebody actually enrolled in the pack that knows this particular prospective scout's family, and pair them up because it's influence. They might be better influenced because they're dealing with somebody they know. Invite them to a recruitment event or make another attempt to get them to join, whether it's an email or a call out campaign. Don't just give up because they said, I need to think it over. Sometimes they need to be persuaded a little bit more. And speaking of follow-up, you've probably heard me talk about this before, but does your pack have a follow-up plan they use when it comes to invitation manager leads? Do you need help? I am hosting workshops. There are about 4 or 5 units in total for each one. And what we're doing is we're actually collectively sharing some ideas and coming up with ways to follow up. On this screen, and this is really important, the percentage of sales made per contact, and we talk about sales in this particular case. When somebody puts in a lead and they're only responded to once, there's only about a 2% chance that that particular sale or join, we'll call it a join to keep things simple, there's a 2% chance that that scout's going to join. That goes up 1% more after the second contact. Goes up to 5% at the third, 10% at the fourth, and 80% after the fifth one. So in some cases, you're going to get them after the first and second one, especially if you're inviting them to a meeting. But if you want to come up with a plan or a process that will get to about 5 steps in this that are easy to do and don't take a lot of time, drop me an email. Because I only allow 4 or 5 units per workshop, I'm asking people to email me so that I can put you in a group that doesn't have a lot of geographical conflicts, and at the same time, I can schedule those a little bit better. So feel free to drop me an email if you're interested in learning more information about that. If you get a no, I want to talk about this. It's not the result we want, friends, and I get that, but we have to talk about it. Sometimes a no is a result of the fact that there is an underlying issue that hasn't been addressed yet. So feel free to ask. If you don't mind me asking, I know we started our conversation great, and is there something on your mind that you would like to talk about? Is there a particular reason? A lot of times you're not going to get a no and walk away. Feel free to ask what that reason is. And whatever that reason is, A, don't take it personally, but B, listen. Remember that whole 80-20 rule? You might get to the core root of what's on their mind. It could be financial. It could be the fact that they're not 100% certain and they want to see things in action, and they just gave you no because of the fact that maybe they're on a time crunch. But ask why it's no. You might get an answer, and let's be honest, some people may never give you the 100% accurate answer. But if there is an underlying issue that might be able to be solved, chances are pretty good you're going to find out. Sometimes no means not right now. We've talked a little bit in our marketing campaign about how scouting works well with sports, right? So save it for spring recruitment if you can't get them to understand that you can work within the the sporting schedule. But if it's a no might mean not right now. And that could be for any number of reasons, one of which could be extracurriculars getting in the way. But you know what? After November, his schedule frees right up, and we'd love for him to join then. So why not get them then? Or save it for spring recruitment. At the very least, remember, a scout is courteous, and at least send an email to that particular prospective parent thanking them for their interest and or attending. And I want to remind everybody that a scout is loyal and helpful. If one of the reasons you get to a no is because of a scheduling issue, that shouldn't be the end of the conversation. And I know we're all working to fill our individual troops, but at the end of the day, part of Joint Scouting Day that we would like for you to consider is the fact that we are trying to build a stronger council, and we are trying to recruit young men and young women into a scouting program in their community. If, for example, the objection is that they can't meet on the night of the week that the den or the pack meets, don't dismiss the other units in your community and recommend that they go solicit or meet with them, or maybe they're there as part of your Joint Scouting Day. We're finding in some of the communities, there's a lot of units that are working together, and that could be a really cool way to work the entire event together. Is, let's say your pack meetings are on Mondays and Mondays don't work for these people, but the other pack meets on Thursday. You've got the opportunity to kind of help each other out. And again, helpful. Sell them on the scouting program with another pack in, or another pack in your town or in your area. Okay. We've covered a lot of ground tonight. I want to make sure we have Q&A, and we're just about there, but I want to talk about some don'ts. And the reason why I bring up these don'ts is, again, we're talking about conversations. And I know to some of the people that might be watching, this sounds a little salesy, and I get it. But at the end of the day, we are having a conversation as a result, and in some small way that does resemble sales, okay? But there are some things here that are really important because it does impact retention and the perception of our image, right? And we want to keep our image positive, especially when we're recruiting new people into the program, because that leads to better retention. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. Don't promise that you go on camping trips if you only maybe do 1 or 2 a year. Again, a scout is trustworthy. Don't stalk or creep or follow them into the parking lot. Okay. And in talking to some units, I've heard that this has actually happened where after the family left and was going to their cars, there was somebody who maybe showed up after the fact from the actual presentation, said, hey, look at, we got to be on the, we got to put our best foot forward, and stalking or creeping can really be a turnoff, especially with some of the things that have happened in the past when it's come to scouting. The big one, do not badmouth. Don't badmouth other packs. Don't badmouth other organizations or other competing youth programs. Because at the end of the day, all that does is makes us look bad. I'll share a quick story. A few weeks ago, Kib surprised me with a weekend away, and the stipulation was that we had to go sit through a timeshare thing, right? And I know we've all gone to these before, and we went up and we were all armed with the whole, oh, we're going to tell them no, and we're not going to worry about it. But we went into this presentation. There's about 20 people in the room, right? And the guy came in, and he was all suited up and started having conversations and got to know us a little bit and built some rapport. And as part of the conversation, it's at one point, he got to a point where he talked about another program. And there was a woman in the room that was a member of another timeshare program. And he proceeded to badmouth this program. And in this conversation, I couldn't believe this was happening 10 feet away from me. He actually made this woman feel bad and put her on the spot about the fact that she was a member of it. And that was a complete turnoff if I ever had any remote chance. And obviously, doing what I've done, running my own business and working in this environment in the past, I kind of was really taken aback. And I'm like, do you really need to do that to persuade people to join scouting? We absolutely don't. So please emphasize this not only within your joint scouting day plans, but also to your team. So, folks, as we wrap up our presentation tonight, I hope this information is helpful in shaping the conversations that you're going to have with prospective parents and their children about joining your pack. If you have any questions, my contact information is on the screen. And once again, on behalf of all of us with the membership and unit service team at the Mayflower Council, thanks for attending and good night.